Great Britain's looking at us in the last 20 years and be like, they took my bar for bar. They took my stuff.
If Great Britain is Dale Curry, the United States is Steph Curry. We just took it a step further. Became the greatest shooter ever.
Welcome back into the Armchair Politics Podcast. I'm David Coe. With me, as always, is Alex Smith and Dr. Christopher Carter. We got a very special, violent episode today. We are doing the WrestleMania of War. Who was the most violent wrestler that y'all loved from your childhood?
First of all, I thought it was funny. This says a special violent episode. I think maybe an episode we're talking about violence. I mean, you know, like I am a nonviolent resistor. I have to self-identify. I'm a nonviolent resistor. However,
that's why we have you here talking.
There we go. I think, man, I don't know, dude. They were all. I'm so old. The only person I'm just gonna go for. Oh, okay, yeah. That dude seemed like he was, short person. I'm going to go for a black person, so I'm going to go old school, say Junkyard Dog. I have no idea if he was actually there, but that was who I liked when I was a kid. So that's like, some old school stuff. So
yeah, so I got the Junkyard Dog.
I got to say mine is Cactus Jack, a.k.a. Mick Foley. That guy, you want to talk about violent. Him and Terry Funk had some ragers. I know it's performative, but these guys got actually really hurt. They were fighting on barbed wire. They would go to Japan to have these matches that I don't think they could actually have in America because they were so violent.
He's crazy. That's a whole nother level.
Reminds me of Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh my God! This is gonna be a fun episode. Oh yeah.
Bringing me all the way back to my childhood. So we're gonna swing back to war and wrestling in a little bit. I want to start with some current events because we had a lot of news last night. We had a primary in North Carolina and in Texas, and that's where I want to start. Top line, everyone, at least on my feed, has been for like 2 months now, not even talking, but fighting about James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, and finally the primary is over. James Tallarico, I think, won by like 4 or 5 points. How y'all feeling about that one?
Not great. I'm just going to be straight up with you, man.
You predicted a Crockett win.
Sure, I predicted a Crockett win, and so this is what I'll say, and I'll be brief, is... which means I'm never brief.
I'm like, as soon as he says that, just so y'all know, if y'all ain't never been to a black church, when a pastor says I'm wrapping it up or I'm being brief, that's the sign that they're not going to wrap it up and they're not going to be brief.
What was the Admiral in Star Wars? It's a trap!
It's a trap! No, but so obviously people are aware of the shenanigans that happened in Dallas County, and
if you're not aware of the shenanigans,
yeah.
The Texas GOP decided that normally in Texas you can vote at whatever polling station you want, but the Dallas County GOP last minute decided that no, you have to go to a specific polling place, genuinely causing chaos among mostly urban black voters, which are Jasmine Crockett's biggest supporters.
Exactly. And then on top of that, when they went to the Secretary of State's website to see where they could go, they had not either updated the map and then of where they could go due to redistricting that happened in December of 2025, or they went to another site where it crashed. So this is all I'll say. I'll support James Tallarico, but he failed a major test for me last night when he did not come out and talk about the massive disenfranchisement of Dallas County in a more forceful way. To me, that's like a massive failure. Like, you look for profiles in courage. He wanted to win, and that's great. He got his win. It was just basically Jasmine and her crew. He said every vote should be counted, and that's all great and all.
He also like pretty early on called for the Dallas County polling stations to stay open.
Sure,
like
stay open.
He was on that before the judge ruled.
That's fine, but I think that was a major moment where he could have showed what, and I think he'll have a primary to figure that out. But the reason that's important is that if you're a Black American, disenfranchisement of your vote is so. I just don't think people understand the depths of how emotional and distressing that is when you've had ancestors who should have been able to vote, could not vote, people dying because they were trying to exercise their right to vote. And then all of these administrative roadblocks, now that they can't outright kill us at the ballot box, which who knows, they may try, are trying to gum up the works. So it's like, to me, it was the Texas primary ended exactly how it started. It was just a mess.
Yes.
I mean, I think that, I agree this was definitely a failure on. Now, I did predict, I thought he would win. I didn't think he would have to, I didn't think all the shenanigans have to happen for him to win, primarily because I thought Crockett's campaign strategy, I just didn't agree with her particular strategy. I have more to say that I'll probably get more into the theological stuff, like on the other podcast that I'm on. But
check out Dr. Christopher Carter on the Progressive Christians podcast.
Yeah, I think that the flaw that she made to me from the beginning is that she seemed like she was running more of a national campaign as opposed to a Texas campaign. I think she pivoted towards the end to focus more on Texas, but from the beginning, even when her launch, she focused more on, I can critique Trump, I can critique the regime, rather than talking about how I can help Texans. So that's first flaw I think she made.
That's where I want to I'm hopping in on you right there, because I think it's not so much that she ran a national campaign, not a Texas campaign. To me, it felt like she was running a general campaign in the primary.
Maybe that's a good way to say it.
Like,
right.
because she really she really tried her best to make it about race, and I understand why, but it's hard to paint James Tallarico, a really soft-spoken, pastor who's said on the House of the Texas State Legislature that God is non-binary. Like, it's hard to paint that man as someone who's gonna not stand up for your rights. And I think so. Here's my comp for Jasmine Crockett. Watching Jasmine Crockett in her campaign this election cycle reminded me of watching the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts specifically. Like, you look at the team and the quarterback, and you're like, man, there's a ton of talent there, but watching their offense was just painful, and her strategy to me was really high risk, high reward. Like, Jasmine Crockett was like, Jasmine Crockett gave herself one path to win. It's, I need to do excellent with black people. She was essentially like, I'm going to beat you by throwing outside the numbers. And when you've got officials who are going to swallow their whistle and allow the DBs, the Texas County Republicans, to put their hands all over your receivers and push them out to the sidelines, when you've only got that one narrow path to win, and it's, you're probably, you're setting yourself up for failure there. Whereas I think James Tallarico, to me, is more of a Brock Purdy, whereas like a little diminutive white guy, but he uses the whole field. And Jasmine Crockett just wouldn't throw the ball, just didn't want to throw the ball over the middle of the field, and she only gave herself one path to win.
Well, he had a couple of INTs with the mediocre comment and his inability to speak kind of clearly to that, and and I know we talked about on an earlier podcast of how that came out and just the machinations of it all. I'm reserving judgment. Again, I'm hoping that he wins. I'm not as sold on him being anything other than a kind of middle of the road Democrat who takes PAC money and who, push come to shove, will he actually stand on his morals when he has to do it in a legislative, not just in a Texas House, but in the Senate? What is he going to do when it comes to talking about Iran? What is he going to do when he talks about getting the John Lewis Voting Rights Act? Like, I'm sorry, maybe I got to stick up my ass about this, but I just
Brock Purdy ain't never won anything.
Look,
I think Brock Purdy's not a good comp for him. I was like, man, y'all doing my man wrong, dog. I'm like, nah.
Hey, I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback, but I think whoever you want to comp Tallarico to, it's early in his career, so it's someone with still potential upside, right? So that's what I would say. Like, I think Tallarico is still particularly in his national career. I just think he hasn't had the opportunities to show us what he may do on a national stage. I do think this is where he's going to get tripped up. It's, are you going to be able to be the kind of confrontational like aggressive politician when you need to be if you are elected, because I think like he can explain things in a very clear and coherent way, in a very persuasive way. But that's fine in a public face. But when push comes to shove, you have to be able to actually be aggressive, be confrontational in these meetings with these other people, your colleagues. Crockett, like Jasmine, has that hands down. Like I think as a legislator, I think she can do that. I think that's where I have some concern with him. But again, it's like we have to see. I do want to briefly, because I know we got to move on to Alex's point about franchisement. I think this is I want to just talk about the way in which the gerrymandering is so pervasive in these states, and this all goes back to the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, and why we just don't we cannot have local control over elections in these in these states that haven't demonstrated that they won't do something racist or to disenfranchise people. That was the whole point. And then they gutted it because like, oh, well, it's been 40 years, so obviously racism is over. And so this is what we're still living in the legacy in. Yeah, and so this is the for me, right? Because also, like, I want to be clear too. This disenfranchises black people, but it disenfranchises poor people. It disenfranchises old people, disabled people. Like, so many people end up getting screwed because of this. And so that's the thing that I think we have to try to reignite, right, through a new Voting Rights Act, to try to make sure we have some kind of guardrails on this to prevent this from happening, so we can have an actual democracy. Or I was gonna say again, but eventually, sometime in the future, maybe, hopefully, we can get to having a democracy. Nice? We can try it. We can just see if it works. I don't know. We can just try it.
So we might skip North Carolina a little bit because we went.
Hey man, shout out to Roy Cooper, man.
Shout out to Roy Cooper.
That man, this is really quick. Here's a quick comp for Roy Cooper. The man put up 50 in the first quarter, and they sat him for the rest of the game.
It reminded me of that first Sean Payton Denver Broncos game against the Dolphins. When Tua and Mike McDaniel was just carving them up for 70.
Yeah,
it was good. It was beautiful to see.
Roy Cooper won by over 700,000 votes, I think.
Do we know if Valerie Fauché ended up holding on to her lead?
She did. She's still in. Wow. Yeah, she's still holding on. I checked on that. By the way, jumping back to Texas, Dan Crenshaw, the one-eyed bandit, lost.
Get him out of here.
But he actually lost to someone who is much more extreme than him. So that's the electorate we're jumping into, guys. So incumbency is now a net negative no matter what party you're in. I think it's
a good thing right now.
Look,
Congress is terrible. Let's get a new one.
You know what this means? This means, we're gonna sign a backup quarterback, but he's not really a backup quarterback, to push our starting quarterback and see if he's going. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? Look at what Lane Kiffin did at Ole Miss, and I won't. This is a good comparison. Austin Simmons was their starting quarterback. He got hurt, and Trinidad Chambliss was just hanging out on the bench. And you know what?
Like Jonathan Moxon, ready to go.
Chilling, ready to go.
I'm just saying.
Slaughterhouse 5 on the bench. Getting deep cuts into Varsity Blues.
I love it.
Anyway, as we start talking about fighters, I think let's just move in. So what we are here to do today, listen, you know what's happening in the world. You know that we're now fighting a war with Iran,
an illegal war.
Because Israel was going to start a war, so we needed to do it, or not, or we started a war because we wanted Israel to start a war. I'm just paraphrasing what our Secretary of State is saying. So if you don't have a full understanding of what's going on, neither do the people who are running the war. So don't feel so bad about that. But we're going to get into not only talking about Iran, but just talking about the American war machine from its inception to what's going on right now. And because we love wrestling and think it's just a wonderful metaphor for the military-industrial complex in the American war machine, we're going to look at it through that lens. And by the end of this, we are going to crown our tag team champion, which is the best or worst alliance that America has ever had, our Intercontinental champion of warmongering, which is the biggest non-presidential warmonger in American history, and of course, the heavyweight champ, the big dog, who is the greatest warmonger in American history. And let's start wherever you want. Who y'all want to lead this off with?
Well, first, I think I want to define some terms. I want to at least let people know what we mean by war hawk, because that was kind of the term we're using. And I think that was helpful because for me, when we came up with the idea, I was like, well, what exactly, like, what do we mean when we say that? Because I know I have my ideas, but this was like new information I had to learn. So the term war hawk, it began in the early 19th century, and originally it described expansionist politicians who pushed for the War of 1812, which was against
Henry
Britain.
Clay, baby.
Henry Clay's on my
He'll come back.
He'll come back. But in contemporary context, it's really about like political leaders who favor military intervention and like aggressive foreign policy over like the use of diplomacy. And so that's how it has evolved. But originally, there was a ton of resistance to the War of 1812, going into war again with Britain, over like potential land and anyway, and like that's other stuff that we can get into, or maybe y'all can leave a comment if you want to actually get into. I actually thought that was interesting when I was reading about it. I was like, oh, because it was about territory in Michigan where like I could have been born in indigenous land had it actually turned around the other way.
If we're talking about, like, to me, I think two of the most interesting, least talked about American wars are the War of 1812 and the Philippine-American War, which I think is never talked about, but really is kind of like when America really took on our colonial expansionism. Like, that's really when we started being like, wait a minute, we can do this all over the world. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, no, I have some. Yeah, the Spanish-American War.
Spanish-American War.
Well, it depends on where. So, like,
Cuba
every country calls that something different. That's what I learned too. Is like every country. Well, like, so I have some Vietnamese friends. Like, they don't call that the Vietnam War over there, right? They call that the American War because they're like, hey, we ain't start nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, so it's very, very contextual. But yeah, no, you're right. That was the beginning of the the fall of the Spanish Empire and that was basically America was like, all right, well, y'all just leave it. Y'all can't control us. If I guess we just take it over, So,
what I love about that is that we fought on the side. We fought with Aguilado, who was leading the resistance against the Philippine resistance against Spanish. We fought with them. We're like, yeah, shrug off your captors and then as soon as it happened, we're like, hey, by the way, what do you think about a new captor?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like having a gun to their head, talking about, "Hey, I'm gonna take this off your hands." You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Let me take this off your hands here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh no, it's crazy. All right, so Alex, who you got to start us off with?
All right, so we're gonna start in the Intercontinental bracket for champions here. I have the list is many and voluminous. We're gonna get through a few of mine.
Voluminous.
Yeah. David, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to just name one, or do you want me to name a few?
Let's name one, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see how it goes. And now, announce your first challenger.
First challenger, I'm going to go old school, kind of in my neck of the woods. John Foster Dulles.
Okay.
A.K.A. Dulles Airport in Washington is named after former Secretary of State John Foster Dulles. He was at the germs of the beginning of the CIA, aka the SOS, during World War II. Learned a lot from the British MI6, and he was very instrumental in getting us involved in the Korean War, and getting us involved in, I think, one or two other conflicts. But the Korean War was a real big one for him. He was also, I believe, a part of going back to Iran. He was a part of deposing Mossadegh and installing the Shah of Iran. And so John Foster Dulles, he'd been up in them streets, so he is definitely one of the biggest war hawks in American history in the Intercontinental title.
Can I give a comp for him?
Please.
What about Bret the Hitman Hart?
The excellence of execution. I was so glad that you brought that up. I had him for another guy, but I think this is Bret the Hitman. He was a technician in getting us into war. He was very, And he had the sharp
a transitional figure in the sport.
And guess what? The older brother of another famed war hawk that I have below, Alan Dulles.
Yo, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
Yes, Alan Dulles' older brother. Comp. Absolutely.
Shout out Owen Hart. That man never.
Owen Hart, man, he should still be with us.
All right.
I think one of the things that really struck me as I was thinking about these war hawks and these wrestlers that we're going to talk about them too, one thing really hit me that like almost all of these wrestlers have paid a significant price, oftentimes with literally their life. And we're going to talk about a lot of wrestlers who died early. Man, all these war hawks, they lived a long and peaceful life. And never faced any of the consequences for their actions, like time and time again. And I just had to bring that up. But I love Douglas. I don't know if he's gonna take the belt, but that's a great way to open it up.
Oh yeah, John Foster Dulles. What do you got, Carter?
So this is a little bit of I'm not even gonna lie, this is a little bit cheating, but I think to me it just makes sense. Well, because it's Teddy Roosevelt. And it was literally because of the Spanish-American War. Because because he was not president when this was happening.
Very good, very good.
Like
general.
Very good, Carter. Very good.
General. All right. And so I was like, this to me, I thought, because it was the beginnings of the colonial expansion. And this is where we begin our campaign of imperialism. So you got Puerto Rico, Cuba, and the Philippines all start getting scooped up in this. I think I'm missing one, actually.
Cuba.
No, I said Philippines, Cuba, Puerto Rico. Is it Guam? Guam. Yeah, Guam. Yeah, I know. Okay. Like, man, I'm sorry. If you from Guam, you're Guamanian, listen to this, man, I apologize. I didn't mean to forget you. But like, I think that this fundamentally wasn't a necessary war. Like, this wasn't something that we had to do. We had a ship that got sank, and when it was in Cuba, allegedly protecting American citizens. And so all this stuff happens, and
that's one of the ones where, like, it's funny. It's like we never got to the bottom of what happened to this ship that started the war, but I'm sure glad we started a war over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the OG false flag.
Yeah. and so it's like, and I think the long-term repercussions, and I think this is the part that I know we're gonna talk about multiple times throughout the podcast, is when you look at the instability in these countries, still, as a legacy of things that happened hundreds of years ago, right? Like, we're still dealing with stuff. So when somebody gets, I don't know, on stage and says, hey, this isn't a regime change war, we're just going to go in and win and leave, I'm like, that's not how wars work, dog. Like, I mean, I thought you was a soldier. Like, I thought like, that's not how it is. Like, just because you say it's over don't mean the other team say it's over. They can still keep fighting, and you still got to deal with the consequences of your actions. And so for me, I think Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Riders, he's a complicated presidential figure for so many reasons. But anyway, I think so for me, he was definitely he's the one I want to toss out.
I love it. And I already threw him out there. But Teddy Roosevelt always reminds me of Jimmy Hacksaw Duggan.
100%.
Like, just like.
I mean, I feel like that's his hill. Like, just got the flag. And I mean, that to me is like that is 100% like how I imagine him in the real world. Like, that is what he was. And like, I always see Teddy as like a sort of a cartoon character in my brain. Like, even when I try to think of it, like, it always renders as a little bit of like a cartoon character because he's such a. What's crazy is he was also an environmentalist. Yes! And like, that's the part. Like, so like, he's the reason we have national parks. And like, now, to be fair, his notion of conservation was racist. Flaw. However, we got national parks. I like them. They're really pretty, So, I mean, he's a very confusing person in some way, shape, or form. But 100%, I think Hacksaw is like I mean, I can imagine him literally on a horse with the
2x4 and the American flag
on the other side, just riding, oh man,
delightful. So I guess I'm up, and I'm gonna throw my ace card out there and just go. Why mess around? And
okay,
just go
that's
with
good. Throw it early.
Mm.
Oh, Henry.
Henry. Because And my comp for Henry Kissinger, even though this person was the heavyweight champion of the world, is The Undertaker. Because okay.
I got The Undertaker for somebody else, but very good.
But so the reason, and so besides just a lot of people are responsible for a massive amount of death. I think Henry Kissinger is one of the tops when it comes. Like, a lot of people got killed in World War I. I think that was more. I think the high death total of World War I was more reflective of the style of war, and less reflective of an American policy judgment. Whereas I think when you talk about like Vietnam and Cambodia, and all of the different campaigns that Henry Kissinger championed, that like he was just responsible for so much death. Also, the reason why I picked him as The Undertaker is because that man was around forever. That man refused to go away, and
I mean,
to me,
dude just died.
Dude just died.
He just died.
Like 32 years old.
I think it was just 100 years old. I mean, that's old.
It felt like 132, Carter.
He kept going.
He was born in 1923 and died in 2023, but it definitely felt like 100. I mean, it felt like definitely he got some bonus years. I don't know.
The Undertaker is maybe not the most solid comp, but just because of the longevity of their careers is why I went with that comp.
No, I think for that reason, I do think that comp makes sense.
I'll throw a different comp. He is the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Woo!
Woo! I'm styling and profiling. Look, let me tell you about
just because you can't do the hair. Hold on, you gotta like.
Oh man,
yeah.
So the reason I have him as Nature Boy Ric Flair is because he was a very flamboyant Secretary of State, flamboyant politician. There was a style to the death that he was a part of, and who he was, and so he was dating actresses, he was dating journalists. Everything for him was shrouded in this sense of being chic and being kind of this kind of flamboyant figure in American politics, and this deep. But again, Ric Flair wrestled forever. I think he wrestled deep into his 50s. And I think he wrestled he wrestled
into his 70s.
70s.
And now that was because he had financial troubles, which again you will see as a common thread in wrestlers. But the man was out there getting the crap kicked out of him in his 70s.
Exactly. And favorite Ric Flair thing, look it up on the internet. Every time you'd hit him, it was very cartoonish. He'd do this and then he'd fall down. My God.
He invented the stun walk. And then the dramatic flop.
Flop.
It was like Draymond Green had been studying that tape.
Ric Flair. Man, you hurt my heart. You hurt my heart with Draymond Green.
I know, right?
That's my boy. That's my boy, man. Michigan State. That's my boy. I saw him come from like a chubby little kid to turn out to be but I'm just like, man, you right. That's a good call though. He been like that since he was playing at Michigan State. That's how he was. So I'm good. I got you. Man.
No, I really like that cop on Kissinger, Alex. That's a great one because the style and the longevity. The Nature Boy, Henry Kissinger, is what I'm going to call him from now on.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any more Intercontinental, or do we want to move on to another one? Do you want to keep? Okay. All right.
We can move on, but I know we've got more.
Okay.
We've got, and I think, can we there's some that are couplets for me.
Please. Let's couple them, please.
All right. So since I used John Foster Dulles, I'm going to go with a couplet. So I'm gonna split the Intercontinental. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, the Intercontinental was split into two. Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels both had the Intercontinental Championship. It was split.
There was two belts.
There was two belts. The ladder match at WrestleMania 10.
It. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The ladder match.
Great match.
Exactly. So I've split the Intercontinental Championship potentially for Alan Dulles and Richard Bissell. Alan Dulles was the head of the CIA. Richard Bissell was also in the CIA. These are the two geniuses that talked John F. Kennedy into the Bay of Pigs invasion. Now, They are the sacred cows of intelligence. They told John F. Kennedy that, Castro, the CIA installed the Batista regime in Cuba, which was very beneficial for American business interests as well as the American mafia. Shout out to the American mafia. That doesn't exist. And
it does not exist on this podcast because we like Live. Please continue.
Right. We like Live.
One day we'll get into the story about how my grandfather was in the Italian mafia.
In Italy.
No, in New Orleans.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll cut that part out too.
It's fine. It's fine. He's passed.
But anyway, the American mafia was and the businesses really gained from Batista's presence in Cuba, and obviously he was money, and so he was really repressive, and so obviously what happens is that there's a revolutionary named Fidel Castro who comes in and said he wants to create a socialist utopia. The United States was like, all right, let's keep an eye on this guy, and then next thing you know, he gets cozy enough to Nikita Khrushchev, who was the Russian premier, and then there was like, he got to go. And so Alan Dulles and Richard Bissell was like James Bond to JFK. And so JFK was kind of like, yeah, we should do this, but I think we should not invade. So they basically scaled the entire invasion of the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs was actually supposed to be this massive land invasion by U.S. troops with air cover. So what ended up happening is it scaled down to an invasion of just 1,500 Cuban exiles with no air cover from the United States. And it ended up being an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. So much so that Alan Dulles got fired. I think Alan Dulles and Richard Bissell both got fired. And JFK has said that he was going to shred the CIA into 1,000 pieces and cast it off into the wind. And then he died 2 years later. I'm not saying those two are connected. I'm just telling you what happened.
You're just laying out the timeline.
Laying out the facts.
I love it. I think that's great.
Go ahead. And those my comps for them are the Bushwick brothers.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's perfect. Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Delightful.
Yep. Just absolutely stupid plan, was never going to work. Military
Bushwick
adventurism.
Brothers. Oh, that's such a good comp.
Yeah.
I wanna throw a one that might be a little out of the box. It's current. So Stephen Miller.
Steve Miller, that's almost like in a category of his own, dog.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, because the thing is, I know he was supposed to be non-president, but he like our prime minister. You know what I'm saying? I mean, quite honestly.
Right? Here's who Stephen Miller really reminds me of Razor Ramon. Just because, like, when they talk, when they present themselves, I'm just like, oh, like just the hard ick, and like I have genuine affection for Razor Ramon because I think he was an incredible performer, and he's obvious, hopefully he was putting on a character because man, he was good at it. But that man just gave me the ski. Both those men, the character of Razor Ramon and the person of Stephen F. Miller, just give me the fucking heebs.
Yeah, now Stephen Miller.
Rest in peace, Razor Ramon.
I think, and definitely not rest in peace, Stephen Miller. I mean, whenever he goes, I hope he ain't no peace.
Shoot his ass to the
no peace. No, I mean, I just think like you have someone who their fundamental orientation towards the world is conflict. No, evil, like conflict. It's all for them. I mean, this is where I think he does fit the category perfectly because it's not just military war. It's like everything. Yeah. Everything is conflict. Everything is how can I position myself in a way I have power over someone. And when you have that kind of orientation, like war always makes sense because you don't even understand diplomacy. It doesn't feel rational because you think of yourself as superior. And so, I mean, Stephen Miller, whew, man.
One of my favorite things in wrestling, I think, is a good place to start transitioning into our heavyweights. One of my favorite things is the turn in wrestling when you go from a baby face to a heel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I love, and you don't often, every now and then, like Hulk Hogan came back, was the baby face and then a heel and then came back. You oftentimes in American diplomacy and in American foreign policy, you get that turn. It's more often the baby face to the heel, like Osama bin Laden, It's not often you get the heel turn back to the baby face, but I always enjoy. It's not enjoy, but it's always interesting to me, in American foreign policy when we have someone who is a dear ally like Osama bin Laden, be like. Put on that NWO shirt and be like, actually, fuckers, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that Americans really need to understand is to follow the money and follow history, because it'll show you we've had interesting bedfellows and then things got sour. And I think people just anyway, Carter, who else do you have? So David said Stephen Miller, aka.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still have. I want to go through these. At least I want to name these two, and it's funny because I know we just did a little like tag team thing, and I don't quite know how we want to disentangle them. But as hard for me.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think we're gonna get to crowning our tag team belt and our allies, because we still gotta deal with our heavyweights.
Yeah,
and maybe we can kick dealing with our American alliances, the tag team champions, to another episode. I think let's focus in on the heavyweights, because let's be honest, that's what's important.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, so this is the last one I'll say for the Intercontinental. Then is, to me, it's Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld.
Rummy.
Yeah, I'm like, well, because, and the thing is, and the reason you can't separate them both is because I think Dick Cheney is like he was just public face. People don't understand how persuasive he was, like in
privately.
These private spaces and pushing and arguing and very, very powerful, right? And so when you actually understand the role that he played in terms of not only creating the conditions, like literally being like, New York Times, there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then the New York Times published, hey, they just said there's weapons of mass destruction. Somebody published it. I'm like, come on, dog. Like, like how come on, you can't eat something and then be like, oh man, somebody said it. Like, that's what I mean in terms of like manipulating the conditions. And we still don't talk about the devastation that we left in Afghanistan. Like, we just don't even conceptually recognize or discuss. Or the fact
that we are directly responsible for the rise of ISIS.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, these are just things that we don't acknowledge and own, right? And again, we think about what's happening in Iran. Like, this is not going to end well.
America, America is like LeBron. Whenever like we commit a war crime, we're like, foul. Are you kidding me?
I mean, we're turning into Luka. I mean, fuck LeBron, man. We turn into Luka, man. Complaining when we get calls, complaining when we don't get calls.
Wow.
But no, I think you're.
The refs. I love that.
No, I think you're right, and I think they have stayed together through multiple administrations.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal, and they've helped shape kind of the world in the Middle East and the conflict and the chaos.
Well, I mean, we've been in perpetual war since September 11th. So, like, 100%. I mean, we broadly, I mean, the way you would frame this is like we have always been in a state of war that we call terror. Like, we are fighting a war on terror.
But even more broadly speaking, America's always been at war.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Not always, but what is it, Alex? We've not been at war for...
We haven't been at war. I think they said there are about 20 to 25 or maybe 30 years that America has not been in... Out of 250 that America has not been in any type of military conflict.
Not great, Bob.
Not great at all.
No, we ain't getting into that Pax Romana. I guess they used to have. They had the Roman peace. They're like, yeah.
Peace through strength.
Are we thinking like John Cena?
No. Mm-mm.
Who's
because he
a tiny, quiet wrestler who actually could just whoop some ass. That's who Dick Cheney was.
I
don't know who that is, man.
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
It's
Rey Mysterio. That's Rey Mysterio. Dick Cheney's Rey Mysterio.
Behind the scenes, but flying fucking everywhere.
Yeah, there we go. See?
Yeah.
I don't even watch wrestling. I just describe it. I'm like, this is who it is. This is who it is, man.
I apologize, Rey Mysterio. I'm sorry I did that to you, man.
Hey, man. Dick Cheney was doing the 619 on everybody. You should look that up if you don't know what that his finishing move is. That's basically what he did to the entire American public.
Alex, that's amazing. Oh, you're delightful. Do we have, all right, if we've got any other Intercontinentals, my last Intercontinental nominee is John Bolton as Rick Rude, just because that dude's a fucking asshole.
Yep.
That's all I got for Intercontinental. Y'all ready to move on to the big dogs?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to start off with W.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just rip the Band-Aid off, man.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Well, because listen, we're going to talk about some genuinely despicable people with despicable actions, and I think W gets a slide because he's kind of a doink. Foreshadowing, if you will, and so I think because of that, people are like, "Oh, W, whatever, ha ha ha." Like, no, man, like he was so fucking detrimental to where we are now and into the Middle East. Like he's carried that through line from Reagan to Trump. Like he made sure that ball didn't drop. But because like he is also kind of a useful idiot, to me, my comp for George W. Bush is Doink the Clown.
I don't even know who Dwight the Clown is, but you name him a clown, so I mean that makes sense.
So it was I don't know if it was the late 80s. It was when I was like a little kid, but they had like a full clown wrestler, like who came out in full clown get up and like did the whole thing, and it was actually a pretty good shtick for a little while. Doink the Clown, George.
And he had a little person with him called Dink.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Doink and Dink. They would do tag team matches together.
Yeah,
this is literally getting like worse and worse the more you go. I'm like this is getting worse. Like this is
I loved comparing wrestling to war is because they're really so similar because wrestling it's a novella. We're telling a dramatic story. And the War Machine is the same thing. It's what story can we tell the American people to keep this fight going? Yeah. And so I really love the analogous of the two because, longest running thing in American history is that we're always fighting. Longest running television show in American history outside of literal soap operas is wrestling. It's the WWE. And it just, it's wonderful. It's wonderfully terrible how they line up, I think.
No, because it is performance. So much of the way in which, when we're at war is the only time where it is, well, historically, I should say, it's the time when it's publicly and politically acceptable to be racist. From all people. And so, that's when you can be Islamophobic. That's when you can be, during World War II, you could be anti-Japan. You could say things. Because we're all because we all feel like we're on the same team. It's in that sense, that's what I mean by performance. You're, performing patriotism in a way that's supposed to build some kind of nationalistic identity over and against an other.
We've been real depressing on this episode, I think.
Nah, we've been actually tossing into the fun, man. Because I'm like, you guys talking about clowns, and I'm like, no. That was crazy.
But I want to say sincerely, I have been really heartened and proud of Americans in the last week or two, because I remember what it was like when we got into the Gulf War, and how gung ho and how xenophobic America became, and how how Islamophobia just wrapped our country in a hole. And real quick, shout out to my girl, Miss Barbara Lee, Mayor Barbara Lee, who was Congresswoman Barbara Lee when the Iraq War was starting, and was the single vote in Congress to vote against the authorization of the War Act in Iraq. So shout out to Barbara Lee, who has always been staunchly anti-war, even when she was literally the only person to do it. But thinking about that moment to now, it's genuinely great that not only are Americans not just accepting the war propaganda that our government's putting out, but instead of one congressperson against this, we've got dozens. And I know that's still a minority, and we're still sad, but we've come a little bit, and I'm proud of us.
I think that
the two black folk are like,
given our
white boy, what the fuck are you saying?
No, I agree. I guess in one hand, all I'm thinking is
relative.
We have come relative. We have, but there is no way in our recent history you can look at any of our interventions, military interventions, as working out well for us financially, working out well for us diplomatically. And so for the Democratic Party, right, and I would actually even say Republicans, but especially for Democrats right now, to me, it should be so easy to be the anti-war party and actually own it and claim it and say, this is why this, not only is this illegal, this is how it doesn't make sense. this is how on this merits is wrong, and we could be spending all this money on giving you some health care rather than the way they did to me is you sign up for a health care policy, then they send you a bill a month later saying, oh, by the way, your medicine is no longer covered and we're increasing your premiums, right? Now, we could actually, I don't know, maybe give somebody some health care as opposed to blowing people up. Like, I think there's other things we could do. So, what'd you say?
We need F-35.
Ah, man. You know what? I need some medicine. That's what I need. Like, man. I'm sure people listen to this podcast know. Like, nah, he need his medicine. He need his meds. He needs his meds. But like,
this is Carter medicated. You don't want to see Carter not medicated.
Man, you really
medicated and regulated.
Yeah. Wait till like about after 6 o'clock when this stuff wear off. Man,
turn up.
Woo.
Oh man.
No, I do think that like. I am proud, David, but I also think that to me, this is such an obvious way for us to move forward, right? That to me just makes common sense. So, but Alex, Alex, you can go next. I know we got a few folks we still got to get to.
Yeah, really quickly, I'm going to go with LBJ. And as a war hawk, I'm going to throw LBJ and his wrestler comp's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh,
Stunner.
The stunner.
Stunner.
Oh, that's so good.
They're both from Texas. Steve Austin's from Victoria. Linden, I don't know where Linden's from. Some very rural, probably area in Texas. So John F. Kennedy in 1963, I think, or 62, sent military advisors to Vietnam. They were very worried about what was going on in South Vietnam and their inability to deal with the communist incursion from the North Vietnamese. And so Kennedy sent some military advisors, which was a sneaky way of just sending soldiers over there, trying to train the folks there. And then, there was a memorandum. Now, we don't know had he died, would those military advisors been gone, but he signed a memorandum to basically withdraw some of those military advisors and bring them back home. He died. LBJ ramped up the war and basically said, we're not going to lose to the communists. Yep. And the reason this war is very, very significant is because it led to untold amounts of death, but this was the war that my dad fought in. My dad was, I believe, drafted. And not enlisted, but drafted, because they were sending, it was a draft.
Yeah.
So my dad was drafted, and I have pictures of my father in Vietnam. And so he told me his journey from Louisiana to, I believe, Pendleton and San Diego, to Hawaii, to Japan, to Vietnam. And so that changed not just the lives of the Vietnamese, but the soldiers that came back who were either dealing with an untold amount of PTSD, substance abuse addiction, and all kinds of horrors that they had to witness and see. And black soldiers who finally fought alongside white soldiers really for the first time. And I think they did that in Korea, but really for the first time here were greeted in such a way that they weren't in World War II, you had ticker tape parades.
Yeah.
But black soldiers weren't really acknowledged. And so these black soldiers came back from very unpopular war and it wasn't, see, this is why Carter and I had that look.
The kids would say they came home from the Vietnam War and the country mogged them.
Yeah, they mogged them.
I guess that's what the kids say. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just saying, I guess they did it.
Yeah,
but anyway,
so
Stone Cold just kind of was he was just I don't give a damn and da da da, and that's kind of how LBJ was in these meetings.
Yep.
Until the very end where he was like, maybe this was a bad idea.
Maybe I done fucked up.
Right. And then Nixon killed the negotiations, I think.
You get to talking about interesting, dynamic and full presidents. That like you talk about LBJ as a warmonger, but also as a civil right. There are facets to these people. And everyone has blind spots, as we like to say. And
I mean, I think LBJ, and again, the person I'm going to add is. Nixon is what I was going to say, because I think you tying these two together with Vietnam.
Yep. Transition right into it.
The distinction with LBJ, I think, is that there was a kind of arrogance that I think he had inherited from the success of World War II that he was trying to carry into Vietnam. Like that, and I mean, it's so Texas, right? Like we gonna win. You know what I'm saying? It's like we just gonna bomb them and we gonna be good. And I'm like, but when people have a sense of resolve, right? When they actually believe that there's a reason to fight for it, like the Vietnamese, and you're fighting in conditions you have, like, you just totally don't know. Like, this is not like, it was much more like the Revolutionary War in America, where it's like guerrilla warfare than what, actually happened. Then what happened in World War II. They were woefully unprepared, and I mean that's why the French were just trying to be like, "Hey, man, we ain't trying to like." They were just like ready to call it quits.
They're like,
yeah.
We can't do this, and we were like, that's because you're French.
All right. They're like, no, this is it's because you're French. Oh man, I mean the French. Man, that should be another episode at some point. Like the national powers and their reputations, because France at one point was like the superpower and it was all about wars, and then all of a sudden they just kept losing. They're like, man, y'all soft. Like, you're soft. All I want to do is like drink wine.
It's like just like Jordan on the Wizards. Like, y'all used to be great, but we ain't scared anymore.
Exactly. No, but
Nixon,
I would say
Nixon is perfect, and he was who I was going to bring up next. If you want to keep rolling on Nixon.
I mean, all I want to say is it just to cap it off in terms of Vietnam. You still have someone. What animates Nixon, whereas I think Johnson was more animated by this fear of trying to look at the threat of communism. I think it's hard to disentangle this from just Johnson's just racism. Like, I just think he just thinks that we're supposed to be better than these people. And like when you and so I think that's the thing that also is in some of these wars too. So that's all I want to add to that. David?
I was going to say that. So I feel my comps are not super. This is the one comp that I was like, if you disagree with me, I think you're wrong. Because Richard Nixon is Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. Because he was doing it at such a high level and then just got cut down.
Yeah, well, I mean,
taken out of the game too early. Fortunately,
too early. I can see that. I mean, Mr. Perfect was such a technician, even more of a technician than Bret Hart. I don't know if I think Nixon was as big of a. Was he? Yeah, I thought he would have been.
Who's your comp for Nixon?
I mean, I had The Undertaker.
Oh, you had The Undertaker for Nixon.
I had he was The Undertaker.
Especially, cause like the vibe works. I feel that.
Yeah, man.
You're moving me on that one. I feel
that. Man. Nixon looked like the Crypt Keeper, man. He looks like he was getting ready to take some souls from somebody. So,
and he did.
Man. And he did.
The Armchair Politics Podcast is brought to you by Agent Orange. Agent Orange was one of the 20 million gallons of rainbow herbicide the United States dropped on Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos from 1962 to 1971. The original woke herbicide, brought to you by companies like Monsanto and Dow Chemicals, wreaked havoc on those countries more than Mr. Blonde did on that cop's ear in Reservoir Dogs. Agent Orange, this was its developed purpose. The Armchair Politics Podcast is brought to you by the Kiowa County, Colorado Tourism Board. Come see where in 1864 U.S. troops slaughtered hundreds of mostly women, children, and elderly Cheyenne and Arapaho people. Despite many bodies being mutilated, no one was convicted for what became known as the Sand Creek Massacre. Kiowa County, take in the majesty of the United States excusing war crimes for over a century.
I'm going to play the classics in Ronald Reagan. And I think this is because I think, and you can talk about Johnson and Nixon in this particular way, but you're talking about Cold War politics and the ways in which you have these proxy wars where we are trying to, again, do regime changes in multiple countries where it does not, like, I don't know. and so you have, again, this vision that's animated by a kind of racialized vision of white supremacy, although that's not the language they would use. That's 100% what it is. And a notion of capitalism, or I should say a notion of Christianity that's draped in capitalism that says, oh, no, we're going to bring you democracy. But when they really mean democracy, they mean we're going to bring you capitalism so that we can make some money, right?
Crony capitalism.
Yeah, and not real capitalism. No, we can give you the kind of capitalism we can make most of the money, right?
Yep.
And so we are overthrowing governments just for some money. You know what I'm saying? Just like just so we can get some money, and then claim that we're improving the living conditions of the actual people on the ground. And so so for me, I think Reagan. You can. I mean, we're still in some ways. I'm even thinking this out loud right now. I apologize. I didn't thought more about this, but I think it goes right to Trump. I mean, all this stuff it's all like money is so much what animates our foreign policy. And it's not money that goes to us. Like, it's not money that goes to us. It's money that goes to manufacturing companies, like military companies, people that are in office.
Northrop Gunham.
Yeah. It's all people who own the prisons. Like, all this stuff is around particular kinds of capital that they sell it to us as a form of nationalism. When we know, like, that at the end of the day, that's not what's holding this stuff up. So
I love it when you talk about regime change. Like, America, every time we go to war, we are like Tobias Funke and Lindsay Bluth from Arrested Development. We're like, what about regime change? Well, did it work for them? No, it never does. But it might work for us. It might work for us. And, like, every time, like I'm not super. Dr. Carter and Alex are the history buffs of the podcast, so I was doing a little research, and I was researching the War of 1812 when we invaded Canada, and even back then, like, the plan was like, we're gonna take a small force into Canada and we're gonna be welcome as liberators. Like, and it's so funny to me, like, 150 years later, we're like, the Iraqi people are going to see us as liberators. And now, 20 years later, the Iranian people are going to see us as liberators. Like, we're straight up like Tobias Funke in our jorts.
But we're like, hey, we're going to bomb some things. Can you guys take over now? I mean, it's basically what they're saying.
We blew your shit up. You want to fix this?
Hey, everybody who was on the streets, don't come out now, but can you come out and figure this out? And then Trump was like, yeah, we bombed the guys that I wanted. Who else do you got on your list? I don't know. I gotta flip through, because the two guys, we were like, oh yeah, we want them. Yeah, we killed them too. But I want to really, really quickly talk about what Dr. Carter said when he talks about it's never in the interest of the American people. The United States and our history with South America in particular is nothing but American businesses. And then you have countries who are wanting to believe in their own self-determination, own their own
bananas
industries, all the coca, for coffee, the coca beans, like all of these things. So you have this arrogance of, basically of this country that basically we go into these places, we take what we want, we extract wealth, we exploit labor, and yet we scream about self-determination. And this mindset comes from, I believe, our European forebears, with the way in which colonialism.
My European forebears.
Well, I mean, the countries kind of.
I know.
Found, you know what I mean?
But it's like, my man here's taking on Europe. I've never thought I'd see the day.
No. I don't. I have some European blood in me, but I don't own it. I'll never acknowledge them. They used to own us, but hey, I don't own it. But anyway, if you look at Great Britain and you look at the Commonwealth and the colonialism and the expansion of their empire, it is like that. America is the same. Founded by the same folks.
Great Britain's looking at us in the last 20 years and be like, they took my bar for bar. They took my stuff.
If Great Britain is Dale Curry, the United States is Steph Curry. Oh. We just took it a step further. Became the greatest shooter ever. So
I like it.
By the way, we should mention Harry Truman in there too. I just want to throw Harry Truman with Korea and. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the only country to drop atomic bomb.
Harry Truman coming on for the top rope.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that is the ultimate coming in from the top rope.
Right.
I think that
from the top of the cage, Harry Truman.
in terms of like thinking about why we continue to do this, or trying to perfect what our political ancestors did, because we can keep going back even past Great Britain. It reminded me of that episode, one of my favorite episodes of Boondocks, the cartoon, The Red Ball, where Ed Wuncler says, he says, he's like, we're Americans. We don't just quit because we're wrong. We keep doing the wrong thing until it turns out right. And I just thought, I was like, that is quintessential American foreign policy when it comes to war. So I think this is where, I guess, I know we need to, at least I want to pivot and talk a little bit about Graham Plattner, because to me he's the person who I want to nominate for our I forgot what we were calling the
game ball.
Game ball.
Game ball.
Like, I mean, to me, like, I think for me, he's the person I nominate because his interview on Pod Save America I thought was really good. The critiques he's having about our current policy right now are excellent, because you're talking to someone who was a soldier, someone who wasn't like an officer, someone who was on the front lines, someone who had to deal with the conflict, who deals with PTSD, who understands the long-term consequences of it, and can articulate, like, his journey through. For him, honestly, what led him to politics is being a soldier and going to these wars and being like, why are we here? And he talked about the last time he was in Afghanistan. I think he said it was 2018. And he was like, and I was there and I was like, we haven't learned anything. We're still doing the same things that we did wrong before. Again, we keep doing the wrong thing until it turns out right.
Not to transition away from Glenn Prattner, we'll get back to him, but I think you bring up a really interesting point. Not only have we not learned anything, but we're actually getting worse in terms of our policy decision making. Because what I think is different about the Iran war is we're not even when we talk about all of these wars that we've talked about before. It's about money. It's about most of the time it's about how can we expand our wealth and power of the wealthy and powerful. And the Iran war to me is even worse, and maybe this is why it's unpopular from the beginning, is because it's not even about American vested financial interests. Like, we've allowed another country to drag us into a war on behalf of their financial interests, which is like an extra level of crazy.
But if you listen to Bibi on Hannity, you can never drag Trump into anything. My God, give me a break. I mean, but this is when you have a rogue leader of a nation who's then, I know, right? Bibi, and then you have a buffoon and ours, and they that is a perfect storm. They you know what I'm saying? Of stupid.
Absolutely. Oh,
and this is the thing, like, I was
stupid.
Real quick,
but really quickly,
my comp for Trump is Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yes.
Because he just all over the place. Keep going.
I think Bam Bam might have been semi-woke, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I agree. And I want to have a really quick full disclosure. And David and I talked about this. Like, I have friends from Iran who are both Jewish and Muslim and one Baha'i. And so I understand what it meant for that moment for their family. So I can separate one thing of, like, I understand why they're here. But and then I have another set of, like, we have no business doing this.
Yes.
And by the way, are we as the United States going to mourn the loss of those schoolgirls? Are we going to talk more about those? Because this is what happens when you do these things haphazardly, and the costs. Those girls will not live their lives fully. They won't see our age. So, like I said, I can hold some things together in tension, and that's
thoughts in your head. Multiple
thoughts where I can see my friends and how they're feeling about things, but also be like, yeah, it's wrong what we're doing.
For me, one of the core tenets is, with respect to these kinds of foreign wars and these invasions and these incursions, that even if we say it's not for regime change and we just killed the leader, so clearly the regime change was possible, and then we killed all the other people that could replace them, so we have no idea. We've created this vacuum of instability. And part of the reason why there's so much pushback on both sides of the aisle is you have an anti-war coalition in both, and you still have people who are maybe even could be slightly for the war, but you have no plan. You have no plan whatsoever. And so the reason these wars don't work is because historically, like, there's an amazing book called Why Civil Resistance Works that's by Columbia University Press that lays out the simple facts is that if you use violence to overthrow a regime, it will beget more violence. The only way it actually is sustainable is if it's democratically led from within. Grassroots organizing where people actually themselves, right? I mean, it's a professor. I think she's at Yale, but she just chronicles like all these things. She's like, no, this has happened, but the only way it's stable because if you use violence to overthrow the regime, then the other people who don't like the new regime think, oh, I can use violence to overthrow this regime. Like it doesn't work, and so this is what is profoundly frustrating is there's all these men who claim to be so smart and want to use all this technology and all this data and we got this information when there's other like contradictory evidence to what you're saying that you refuse to engage. Just it shows that you are profoundly immature and that you will not actually wrestle with the strongest counter arguments to your opinion because for you the only way you know how to respond to something is with violence and force to perform a kind of masculinity rather than actually diplomacy. Like you actually don't want to govern. Like you just want to be in power. You don't actually want to govern. And that's what we see taking place over here in Iran.
That's the American way.
I know we got to wrap up, but I do think it's important for us to at least emphasize the point Alex made around we can understand that there are some people who can celebrate like the fall of this regime because they were clearly did all kinds of inhumane things, cruel. Right? They were repressive. But if your goal is actually to bring about the liberation of Iranians, the process by which this happened is likely going to lead to more oppression. And I'll be honest, like it's hard for me as someone who looks at all human beings that have a sacred worth to have people celebrating when you have a school, like when there's already been all these civilian casualties, when there's children that die. Like I can't, like I couldn't bring myself to celebrate it. And it just shows me the ways in which some people are able to dehumanize other folks for the sake of their own political gain, even if they're not in politics, right? They're just regular people. And there has to be a way for us to expect better of ourselves. And I don't know, man. I grieve for those. Like, if you saw those videos of the women, I mean, I cried because I'm like, I couldn't imagine what that would be like. So
and it's something that is so steeped in our history and it's so uniquely American that we see it as normal and maybe and so that that's what we're here and that's why we're trying to talk about this is so that people who you can't. If you don't know about our history, you can't understand it, and you think that this is some sort of unique outlier in some sort of special moment in history, when really we are just following the through line that has been in a lot of ways 250 years of tragedy. That hopefully, if we can all collectively acknowledge, we can break it. But we got to collectively acknowledge that first. Alex, I want to hear from you. What's on your mind, baby?
Yeah, no, I think I'm with Dr. Carter. I think I this is such a hard thing, at least for me. It's like when you hear people's stories of how they escaped, and then you see in the ways in which people are celebrating, but I'm like, but you won't be able to go back home probably. There's no this regime is so entrenched. They have contingency plans upon contingency plans. And I'm so nihilistic, like no amount of diplomacy will allow for the real liberation of the Iranian people. And I think this is where Dr. Carter and I divulge, where I believe that unfortunately in some instances violence ends up being redemptive. I don't think that he and I would be liberated as Black people had not been for the Civil War in this country. I just don't think the South would have allowed that to happen. They were the ones who fired on Fort Sumter. So it challenges us. And so as for me, as a Christian, Jesus is calling me to do the opposite of what I see in my mind as like, well, there's only one way, and that's this way. That's the only way that these people will understand. And Jesus I'm not turning this into a Christian, but it's like my faith has to inform how I feel about this stuff. And so, yeah, it's not too complicated, but I understand the feelings happening. But, again, who's going to agree?
We got to take the rest of this conversation offline because we got to wrap up.
Yeah.
So I'm just like that.
Yeah, I honestly
disagree.
I
disagree.
I kind of love that we didn't end up crowning any champions because it's all awful and and war sucks, and we should try and we should all acknowledge what's happening, because it's not George Bush and Donald Trump and Barron Trump who are going out there and doing the dying for American colonialism. It's the three of us, and it's our kids, and it's the people and it's you listening to this. So speak up and fucking hit American colonialism with a folding chair.
Talk to your representatives. Call them.
Let them know how you feel, and that you're sick of Americans dying just to kill more people. Death begets death, violence begets violence, and let's bring back some more WWE fake violence. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right,
later.
Peace.